This is Gloria Austin and David Saunders. We're here at the Equine Heritage Institute Library, and we're going to just talk briefly about one of the most frequently asked questions, which is how do you match a horse in a carriage, size, and what have you. We know that there are horses and ponies, but we also have to consider the gait of the horses or the ponies, because there are 4 primary gaits to a horse or a pony. There's a walk, a trot, a canter, and the amble is what you would see in the Missouri Foxtrot or Tennessee Walker Pasifino. The canter is what you'd see in the quarter horse thoroughbred Arabian. The trotting horse is the one that we most specifically choose for carriage driving. And then the horse that walks is the horse that is the draft horse. So, David, you want to talk a little bit more about something about the horses and the size and the gait of the horse for a carriage?
Exactly. There are 2 general rules, 2 or 3 actually. When you're trying to match the carriage to the horse or pony, the first consideration you really need to think about is weight. It can be too light, the carriage. Obviously, when you see someone driving a sulky at a racetrack, that carriage weighs absolutely nothing. So the carriage can be lighter, but it can't be too heavy. You can't put a single to a carriage that takes 10 people, for instance. So you need to think about the weight of the carriage. And then, of course, there's the height of the carriage. If it's a 2-wheeler, 2 types of carriages, 4-wheelers and 2-wheelers. If you're driving a single, especially, but with a pair you can drive also a 2-wheeler and a 4-wheeler, but that's another story. So you have to think about the height of the horse or pony, and with a 2-wheeler it's basically the shafts have to be fairly level, and the shafts keep the carriage up or down. So you have to have a horse or pony where the height of the wheels or the height of the shafts are suitable to the horse or pony.
Might I add, though, also with a 2-wheel vehicle, generally we look for a rise of the front of the shaft of about 4 inches above the back of the shaft, generally speaking, so that it doesn't run too much uphill the shaft into the shaft or too much downhill. Now, with a 4-wheel carriage, some people think that they're much more stable than a 2-wheel carriage. It depends upon the purpose and what you're going to use your horse for and where you're going to drive it. I generally do think 4-wheel carriages are more stable and will stay on the ground better, but for training purposes, before the horse is really trained, you'll want to use a 2-wheel vehicle. I usually say you only go to a 4-wheel vehicle when the horse has learned to stand quietly and rein back only the prescribed number of steps and then step forward again.
And the other thing to take into consideration with 2-wheelers, there's benefit for 2-wheelers, there's benefit for 4-wheelers. The benefit of a 2-wheeler, as Gloria just said, if the horse backs up, with a 2-wheeler there's no danger of a jackknifing effect. The 2-wheeler is much lighter. You can turn much quicker in certain turns. If you have to turn around a sharp turn, if you're in a lot of trees or something like that, a 2-wheeler has its benefits. It's lighter, it's easier to maneuver. The downside to a 2-wheeler is you have to have it balanced correctly, and that's when we were talking about the height of the shafts, because 40% of the weight of the carriage is actually going to be on the horse's back.
Also, with a 2-wheeler, is there should be no more than 3 to 5 pounds download on the tugs, which is the pieces of leather where the shafts rest in the harness. So just remember there should be no more than 3 to 5 pounds download there. That speaks to the balance of the carriage, whether there's too much weight in the tugs or too little weight in the tugs. What else? The 4-wheeler. I like 4-wheelers because I do believe they're more stable, but what happens with the 4-wheeler is now you've got 2 sets of wheels that have got to travel through cones or out around something. But once you get to pairs, of course, and 4-in-hands, you're going to be using four-wheel carriages. So.
And the benefits of it, the other benefits of a four-wheeler is you can take more people, and the carriage is much easier to get in and out of. If it's and of course you have the option of brakes. People do put brakes on two-wheel vehicles, but obviously if you think of the cantilever movement, if you start braking on the carriage, it goes from 2 or 3 pounds on their backs to the whole weight of the carriage twisting, torquing on their back. So the four-wheel vehicle has the option of taking more people, it has the option of brakes, there's no weight on the horse's back. A lot of people like to use them in combined driving for dressage because they want the horse self-carriage. They don't want any weight on the horse's back, so the horse can move in a kind of balletic sort of movement, and whereas a two-wheeler, obviously the weight is on the horse's back. The other downside to two-wheelers is, unless you have a very good suspension, like a Dennett spring or a gig spring or a thoroughbred spring,
Correct.
what tends to happen is that the movement of the horse going up and down on the shafts is transmitted to the driver, so the driver goes up and down, and if you're going up and down, unless you have a steady hand, your hand goes up and down, and then of course you're transmitting that to the horse's bit. So there are benefits of two-wheelers, but there are drawbacks to two-wheelers. There are benefits for four-wheelers, but there are drawbacks to four-wheelers.
And I think that's probably enough for today. What we'd like to do is to hear your questions, and if you can text those into us, Jeff will give you an address where you can send some questions, and we can talk more about two-wheel and four-wheel carriages, or we can also talk about bits, a variety of kinds of bits and how they're used, and also reinsmanship or whatever other questions you have
And
about
harness,
driving.
and different types of harness.
And different types of harness.
For different vehicles.
For different vehicles.